pricing. How much should you charge when you're trying to decide what you should charge for your course, your consulting, your coaching services? Well, there's a lot of data around there. Unfortunately, most of the data that is out there is built around consumable products that are sitting in a store with other similar products sitting right next to them, and that they're something that people buy all the time. So they have a pretty good idea about what shampoo should cost. Well, the problem is pricing information products, something that you're probably going to sell for $97, $497, $997, $1997 is not like pricing shampoo. They're two totally different animals. So let's talk about that decision, because it's really, really important that we make that decision correctly. It has a huge effect on how much we actually make. So we all agonize over this. I do, you do, everybody does. And what ends up happening is we get into this fear place where we don't know what we should charge. And so we keep saying, but what if I did this? And we have to sort of work with our gut feeling. But there are statistics that come into this that are important for you to recognize also. So what we tend to say is, if I just cut my price in half, won't I sell a lot more? I will tell you that in all the statistics that I've seen about this, you will. You will sell a lot more if you cut your price in half. So the problem is that if you cut your price in half, you have to sell twice as many as you did at the higher price to make the same amount of money. So if you cut your price in half, you have to sell twice as many to make the same amount of money. And now what you need to consider is, what's the probability that selling twice as many is actually going to happen? Let me tell you what the statistics that I see say. The statistics, so we're not talking shampoo here. We're talking $500 courses versus $1,000 courses versus $2,000 courses, all right? So the statistics that I see say that if you cut your price in half, your sales are going to increase by about 10 to 20%. So let's be clear here. When I say 10 to 20%, I don't mean the dollars you bring in. I mean the number of units sold. So the number of courses that you sell. So let's do this. Let's just imagine that you, at $1,000, and we'd call that $997. We'll just call it 1,000 because it makes the math be real easy. You would sell 10 copies of your course. So that means you would have $10,000 in sales. Congratulations. That's way cool. Now, let's take that first statistics and say, okay, we're going to sell 20% more if we cut our price in half. All right. So that means I'm going to sell 12, because 12 is 20% more than 10, at $500 because I cut my price in half. So 12 times $500 is $6,000. Notice the difference. 10,000, 6,000. So what ended up happening is you lost 40% of the sales you would have made. You lost $4,000 by cutting your price in half. So when that fear moment hits and you say, oh, I'll just sell a lot more if I cut my price in half, you will. I'm not going to guarantee anything, but I can pretty much assure you that you will. And the statistics say that you'll sell 10 to 20% more units. The problem is the math doesn't work because you cut your price in half and then you sell only 20% more. You're going to make less. Okay, so what if the fear really sets in and you say, hey, what if I get radical? What if instead of charging $1,000, I only charge $100? All right, how's the math work on that one? Well, here's the problem. It's even worse when we cut our price even further. So if you cut your price by 90%, $1,000 down to $100, you have to sell 10 times as many units to make the same amount of money. Again, I ask you, what's the probability that's going to happen? So let me show you what the statistics say. So here we have the same thing. So 10 times 1,000 equals $10,000 is what you would have made at charging $1,000. So if we cut our price by 90%, charging 100, you're probably going to sell about 5 times more than you would have at 1,000. So what that means is now you're selling 50. So 5 times more. You sold 10. Now you're selling 50. But now you're only getting $100 a piece. And so 50 times 100 equals $5,000. Again, notice the gap. Congratulations. You just got radical and lost $5,000. That right there is the price of fear. If you allow fear to get to you and cause you to decrease your price, you are very likely going to make less. Spam calls, been getting them all day long. Okay, so now, of course, this varies by category, by target market, by how well you have built a relationship with people, all those things. It's really, really hard to do an apples to apples test with this. And I realize that you're probably saying, well, Don, that's exactly where I am. I'm in a category that doesn't pay a lot. No one knows me. I've got a brand new list, all those things. I totally understand. I totally understand. But math is math. So I wanted to show you the math and ask you, as you're making this decision, that every time you cut price, you figure out how many more units you have to sell at that lower price. So if you cut your price by half, you have to sell twice as many to make the same amount of money. If you cut it by 90%, you have to sell 10 times as many to make the same amount. Do that logic. Think that through. And ask yourself, what's the probability that's actually going to happen? And ultimately, you do what feels best for you. You have to do what you're comfortable with. I just wanted to give you some more data to help you in that process. All right. Let me know what you thought of all this. Let me know what questions you've got and what comments and what you're struggling with. This is Don Crowther saying, just go do this stuff.